I had the great pleasure of being invited to Logically's second event, LogicCon, in Columbus, Ohio, the week of the 15th of October, 2024. Logically is a managed service provider, but a very large one. I've also had the great pleasure of being acquired. I was the first MSP to be acquired by Logically. So I feel like I'm really part of the community still, or part of the family still. But I went on site. They had a great event. I set up the podcast booth. I had a lot of great conversations with the staff of Logically, with some vendors that were there, and some other people. It was a great time. I'm humbled and thankful that I got the opportunity to do that. The following is one of the conversations at this great event. I want to thank Logically for letting me do this. I had a great time. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word, discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission? How do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision, growth through learning from others.
Tell me about yourself personally.
I've been with Logically. Well, I was with a company called Cerdant first. That was acquired by Logically. This will be 11 years in April.
Wow.
Came over with Josh and some others from that Dublin cybersecurity team. Done a little bit of everything. Started as a network analyst once, my first IT job. And from there, excuse me, eventually became a SOC analyst or security analyst, then an engineer. From there, I ended up running the network analyst team, ended up running all of engineering, started new departments, called infrastructure services, and then now went in my current role. So I've had an opportunity to do a little bit of everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what are some of your personal hobbies?
Honestly, I like first and foremost, I have 5 kids. So they keep me pretty busy. Four boys and a little girl. Currently do some coaching, enjoy that quite a bit. And then just like to play basketball,
Tall man, you're a basketball player.
A little bit. I have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I have some friends.
Can't get hurt though, that's the problem.
It can. I'm noticing as I get older, day after,
Right.
a little more sore.
Right.
Ice and stretching is becoming a lot more important than it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now, most of my time revolves around my kids. Try to do a lot of stuff together. We're a very busy family because sports, activities, we require every quarter, so to say, if we break up the year in 4 quarters, every quarter, every season, we want our kids to do something. It doesn't have to be a sport. It could be art, could be pottery, could be guitar lessons.
Interesting.
We want them to have something outside of going to school, coming home, and turning on the TV. So.
And when you say you coach them, you coach them in basketball?
So been coaching my eldest in flag football. I've coached my other next 2 youngest boys, are 8 and 6, in soccer, and then I will be coaching basketball this year, the travel team.
Talking about flag football, will they ever go to full contact?
My eldest probably will. It's a little bit of an uphill battle.
Yeah.
He's kind of built for it. He's a very athletic kid, and he wants to. We've definitely got his mom to agree 6th grade he can start.
Wow.
So I might coach him one more year. But if he could, he'd do it tomorrow.
Wow.
So.
And how do you feel about concussions and football? And
it's obviously a concern.
Yeah.
I've had a few concussions in my life, never
Me
from
too.
football. From sports and things you would never think it would happen.
Really?
It can happen anywhere, right? I think the biggest thing is about being safe about it, right? And I think at least some of the programs that he's done, the local high school did a padless session, and it was all about like proper form, where to put your head and stuff, just for kids to come for free and just learn that kind of stuff. So I think the more you do that, especially now also that they allow the halos, those extra little
Like
pads.
the halos, yeah.
Yeah, which I'm hoping. I need to look into that if you're allowed to do halo at any age. I know the NFL has it, but you know, he might be a halo kid if he when he plays.
Right.
Yeah.
Soon maybe they all will be, you know. I mean, the NFL is changing some rules. I mean, the kickoffs and stuff, we can see they're doing it.
They're trying to stop all that.
They're trying to stop it, and they have activated a concussion protocol where you see them get into that tent. And
independent neural scientist or surgeon or whatever it is that evaluates them and all that.
Yeah. It's such a great sport. It's the biggest sport we have in this country.
Absolutely, but there's that underlying fear, and that's what my wife is worried about. Right?
Of course.
You know, excuse me, and he's, you know, one of the things you say is like, you know, built for it, right? My eldest is big for his age in the sense of very tall, very solidly built. You know, if you look at his next closest brother, you know, strong breeze, I feel like he'd blow away.
Wow.
You know, so it's like they're very different in size, but it's one of those that, you know, I don't want him to get hurt. But what I always tell my wife is like, if that's a passion of his, which he really does love it, like I don't want to also stand in his way.
Right.
But you want to make good decisions.
It's a tough balance there. It's such a great sport. You know, I played soccer all my life. Never really got a concussion, but still, you know, heading the ball has become a big issue in soccer.
Oh, yeah.
And they're saying they're getting mild concussions, these
Mild
players.
concussions, or, you know, I've seen, you know, two people go up to head a ball and they collide heads. And it's like, you get, honestly, you get a concussion anywhere. Concussion on the basketball court.
Sure
somebody takes out your legs when you go up, hit your head on the, I mean, that's a hard court. There's no give.
That's right. There's no give on that.
Colliding heads. I've seen somebody in high school whose head collided with a goalpost of the soccer goal. You know, it's like that's now metal. So, you know, I got a concussion, you know, swimming.
Wow.
Competitively doing a backstroke, lost count of where I was and didn't notice that I hit the thing, and I full speed hit the top of my head against the swim wall.
Wow.
So I mean, you know, we gotta. It's good decisions trying to do, but it can happen anywhere, and I think it's one of those things of you don't ever live in fear.
Right.
You know, this year in coaching, we had a kid who broke his clavicle, just diving and landed on the ground weird. Nobody touched him. Nobody landed on him.
Wow.
It was back when Ohio had a little bit of a drought. So the ground was really hard, kind of like clay. And just he landed weird and his shoulder popped up and he snapped his clavicle. And it's like, that could have happened doing anything. He could have been in the backyard.
Yeah, sure can.
So
I got one. I was playing second base. I went to turn the double play and they took me out in the slide.
Yep.
Came right back, just snapped right on my head.
Yeah.
You're not wearing a helmet playing the field.
No.
You know? You know?
Well, and even if you were, it's sometimes taking a high heater. Like,
that's right.
That helmet's not doing much for a small, hard baseball going, you know, depending on what age you are. Some of those kids can throw it.
They sure can.
And that's what I mean. It's like, yes, is it higher chance for football? 100%.
Right.
Nobody would deny that. But it could happen anywhere.
Yeah, it sure can. It's a really tough balance because you want sports. You want them to be, you know, athletic. You want them to have exercise as part of their life.
Team building.
That's huge.
Learning how to also take losses. I'm not trying to get in two ways, but, you know, in life, in business, let's say business.
Yes.
If here logically we're competing with another company, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser.
That's right.
When if they don't pick us, or if they do, they don't go to the other company and say, we feel really bad you put in all this work, so we're going to give you a different deal. Like, somebody, and I think, you know, team building, learning to work as a team, learning to work as to achieve a goal, take a loss, pick yourself back up, go for try again the next time, right? I think there's a lot of character building in a lot of all that with sports.
There is.
But even just everything, like I said, it doesn't have to be a sport.
Right.
With our kids, like, learning the guitar,
right?
You're learning to practice, you're learning to read music, or, you know, one of my kids is very artistic.
Wow.
You know, so it's like he just got done doing like a pottery class. Sure. You know, and it you know, if it challenges him or taps into that creativity, I'm all for it.
That's very, very cool. So we're here in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, sir.
Logically, their second event, LogicCon. It's a great event. MJ
Absolutely.
and oh my goodness, Josh put on a tremendous event. What are some of your goals here?
You know, one of the things anytime I come to an event like this, LogicCon, is I don't get to see some long-term customers. There's actually one, her name's Tam Pham. She's been with Domain Carneros I've worked with her for, we figured out it was either 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
I've never met her in person.
Yeah.
And got a big hug from her. And it's just like that to me is one of the best things about LogicCon is truly to just bring people together, get like minds together, you get those great conversations. You know, how are you guys combating this? How are you doing this? You know, we could really talk some things out. But for me, you know, especially being at the same company so long, there's some names and faces that I've only seen through Teams or Zoom.
Isn't that
And to
something?
get to shake their hand or, you know, give them a high five, fist bump, sit down and have lunch with them. Especially, you know, that customer example I gave, she's in California, I live in Ohio.
Huh.
That's not an easy trip,
Right.
right? So getting a chance to see some of them, it's always a goal of mine. Learning something about a department that I don't know. You know, sometimes we get blinders on, head down, working on our little area. In a company this size, our area, while important, is a tenth.
Right.
You know, maybe 25%, depending on what our job is, of the greater whole. So some of these sessions are things that I'm learning just as much as the customer is.
Wow.
So, you know, I even take that away.
Enterprise solution architect. So you're working with enterprise. This is like 1,000 seat and above.
I work with a little bit of anything. I think the enterprise is more when we do have those opportunities, it may fall to me. But what I would say about our team is it's really more about what it is that that customer is looking to do.
I see.
So for me specifically, wireless design, network infrastructure design, or like a cybersecurity solution of that size, more than likely I'd get the at-bat or the opportunity, right? If a customer is much larger and you know, you'd think it would fall under enterprise, but they're looking to do something with servers or, you know, cloud migration or Office 365, there are people that would be way better than I am at that, right? Because there's specialization in what they do. So while my title says enterprise, you know, I'll handle anything any size. It's more so about that design and infrastructure piece that I really focus on.
Very interesting.
And really building that solution. So if it was bigger, that would automatically fall to me. But then I just try to support my team in my areas that I'm, you know, I have more experience with, and vice versa. Some of the other SAs, I mean, I lean on them depending on the product or what we're trying to build, you know, quite a bit, just as much, if not more.
Give me an example of a project.
You know, one actually customer that's here, I think we're very proud of us doing is World Outreach Churches here today. And, you know, they were looking to enhance their wireless and just make it better, faster, stronger, better, you know, all those kind of fun adjectives. And I had an opportunity to go out on site, walk the whole beautiful campus that they had there. I think over 2 days, just doing wireless on-site active and passive scan. So it started just gathering information, right? We don't know what we don't know. I think I ended up covering about 6.5 miles over 2 days,
Wow.
in steps. And then took that information, reviewed it, analyzed it, brought it back to the customer and say like, hey, I think part of the reason why you're having problems may be X, Y, and Z, right? Based on the data that we found. And then we take that and we'll build a 3-dimensional model of their facility and map out where access points should go,
Wow.
how they should be configured, maybe give them jobs and different things for whatever the customer needs, right? And this is the process. You're talking multiple months now, right? Now we build out this beautiful design, review it with the customer. Maybe we need to do some tweaks. You know, hey, we can't install something here because that ceiling is just too tough, or we don't have a switch nearby, or let's move it, or let's add a switch. Excuse me. So now then it becomes a realized project. We order the equipment and then it's helping them configure and deploy. So that'd be an example of like a wireless project. But in a lot of cases, the things I'm working on, there's a problem or, another manufacturer worked with, they had issues with downtime. And a lot of it was based on their design and topology, you know, a lot of single points of failure. So then it's sitting down with them, understanding the goals, what areas are important to them, right? And then building resiliency into the network. So let it be 2 power supplies or, you know, switch stacks versus a single switch, and then figuring out how we would cable all that. So those are kind of some of the examples of projects that I've been on this year, outside of your standard cybersecurity, you know, building some kind of compliancy. But in most cases, I get brought in to take a network that's feeling some pain in some way, shape, or form, and come up with a solution that takes away that pain, that takes away that problem.
What attracts you to these kinds of projects and solving them?
I mean, part of it is that I like troubleshooting.
Really?
I like finding those solutions out. What's interesting is all these though, like as I mentioned before, a lot of different jobs, right, at Logically. To be honest, what started the craze for wireless is one day, long time ago, before Josh Skeens, our current CEO, was I think he was just director of IT at the time, was working on a wireless design, and I went into his cube, even have an office then, right? Peered over his shoulder, and I thought it looked cool. Like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm building this design, and it was for a musical arts center down in Tampa Bay. And I'm like, that's really neat. So it started asking questions, started reading, studying, learning about it, and kind of became a passion piece. So I think for me, working on those designs, coming up with that solution, it is work in the sense because it's my job, but it's like finding the right solution to a really large problem, and then you get to create as well. So for me, I find a lot of fun in it, and like I said, started with just looking over somebody's shoulder and oh, cool, I want to try that. But then putting in the time.
How is AI going to help?
So AI, specifically with this, first and foremost, helps us identify problems on the network. And even when we're doing all the modeling that I told you about from a wireless standpoint, it's not perfect, right? So AI can potentially help with that, right? Help us analyze that data, cut through the data. That's probably one of the longest, time buckets is when I do one of those on-site scans, understanding what is happening, what is wrong. AI is going to help us analyze that. But more so, specifically when we're getting to wireless, if you have a network, say switch, computer, cable, goes from computer, goes to switch, it's kind of finite, right? Now, as long as the switch is configured properly and somebody doesn't edit the switch or doesn't create a loop or things like that, that individual connection, just that computer to that switch, is pretty set in stone, right? Obviously, networks are a lot more complicated than that, and you need maintenance on your switches and things, but I'm just talking about an individual client. If you connect a cell phone or a laptop or anything to wireless, the way that wireless interacted with its environment on Monday could be different on Tuesday because you don't have control over what your neighbor's doing. Or did they put a new Doppler radar outside your door? Or did your neighbor install an AP on the outside of their office building, is bombarding you with radio signals? Or are you in a multi-story office and you are on floor 2, and on floor 1 and floor 3 there's people above you changing their wireless, right? So AI is now analyzing all these data points and can help us find, predict future problems. We could baseline a network, and AI, again, I always like to say it truly sees the forest, right? As a human being, I can only look at so many data points at once. AI can look at all of them together and start to form, correlations or take a from over here and x from over there, and a plus x normally equals this. Well, I wouldn't see an a and x at the same time. They could be, from my point of view, different menus, different pages, different data points that I would never even think to correlate together. So from a networking standpoint, with some of the tools that we use with our partners at Extreme Networks and others, they are building these models that can look at hundreds of thousands of data points, correlate them all together, and find, hey, we're starting to see a problem. Let's say it's a school, in the science wing of this school. We need to make changes, right? I think the future of that will be, you can set up guardrails and give AI the ability to make some minor changes on its own. And so as soon as it sees that we're starting to veer left, it can steer it back right.
Wow.
Minor stuff without human interaction. Major things we should always bring in, human. There's still decisions and context that needs to be involved there, right? But, from a networking standpoint, I see AI it really helps us always see the forest. When as a human, sometimes we get locked onto a tree or two.
Right. And we can't see those kind of trends and changes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you can't watch it 24/7.
Right.
Or if I'm watching it for an hour on a Tuesday, somebody else watches it for an hour on a Wednesday, he doesn't know what I saw on Tuesday.
What you saw.
Right? But that AI model gathered all that data. So,
Sam, has there been anything recently that you changed your mind on?
Goodness.
Small, big, doesn't matter. Anything that you've changed your mind on, had a change of opinion, decision on?
I think minor things all the time. I mean, thinking of a big one, I would say two recently,
Okay.
but AI, just in AI in itself.
Yeah.
You know, I always saw value in what, you know, Extreme was doing with the networking stuff and whatnot, but being more willing to put AI in anything, let it be, you know, I've recently purchased like a Chat GPT membership, and starting there versus like Google. I just want to say changing my mind, but getting out of habits.
Right.
If I needed to search something, it was always Google, and then it was
Yeah.
looking through, then right-clicking and opening new tabs of like the
Right,
first 6
yeah.
things and diving
All
into
the
them,
time, yeah.
versus, hey, AI, what is this?
Right.
And getting resources from them and having them categorize it. So I'm going to say a mind change. I'm trying to think of something I've changed my mind on, but more so changing of habits, right? Being more open to change the same thing I've done. You know, my wife calls it a know-it-all. I like to think I just like to learn.
Me too.
But it was always Google, always
Right,
these
me
different
too.
things. And it's, you know, asking those questions there, or, you know, changing where I get my information from and finding better ways to get my information. But I was such a creature of habit, you know. So I feel like I'm changing some of the habits of what it is that I'm, you know, looking to do.
It is a big shift because you're right. I often go to ChatGPT before I go to Google.
Yeah.
You know, it's just.
But think 6 months ago.
Yeah.
How often? I was probably on the Google homepage
Right.
more than any other website,
Yeah.
minus like a specific tool I use for my job.
Right.
And
Just
I'm finding
constant
it's less and
query.
less and less. And I still will hit that habit, and I'll realize like midway through, what am I doing?
Right.
I'm gonna go.
Bunch of
I'm gonna go to
sponsored
this.
pages, yeah,
You know, or I'm
yeah.
gonna go talk to somebody else, and then I think the you know, the if I were to say just a personal change is I would even say I will say a change of mind of parenting. I've always been more. I was raised in very like strict. I won't say disciplinarian, but a very more strict household, and I've kind of always been that more strict parent.
Yeah.
And my wife's been the less strict.
I see.
And I'm really starting to find it that I'm changing my parenting style.
Interesting.
We'll say,
Yeah.
because I kind of came to the realization is that while I have a great relationship with my kids, they're starting to see me as like, well, I'm not going to go ask dad because he's obviously going to say no. It's like, you don't know that. I could have said yes, but I feel like I was becoming labeled as not necessarily how I wanted to be labeled.
Right.
Still have a great relationship with my kids, but I don't want to be labeled as just the guy that disciplines. So I even say there, if I was looking for specifically like a mind change, I'm finding a shift in, you know, parenting style of trying to be, you know, more let's discuss it versus, hey, you're grounded, go to your room. You know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It's new.
That comes with wisdom as we get older, right? Yeah, kind of parenting kind of softens a little bit, and your kids. It really depends on the kids as well. What motivates you?
My family first and foremost.
Yeah.
I want to always provide for them. But I would say even before I had kids and whatnot, I really hate losing, and I go into that. I like knowledge, and I don't like being wrong. And it's not that I can't be wrong. If I'm debating with somebody, I'll gladly be wrong because then I get to learn something new. But what I more so mean is, I don't want to make the wrong choice about something or an uninformed decision. So I feel like I'm constantly wanting to learn. So I have the tools that I need to make great decisions, right? So let it be reading or studying or watching a YouTube video, a how-to of something. I've just always been driven to, I don't like to lose. But more so, I think it's been shifted to where I just want my kids, like I said, I never want one of my kids to come up to me and say, Dad, I want to take that pottery class with those guitar lessons, and me to say, you can't do that, right? And I always feel like hard work will always get you where you want to be. And I want them to see that, you know, so.
So given that motivation, Sam, how do you measure success?
It's a great question. I think, you know, the simple way with my job would probably be wins and losses, right? That would be the easy answer.
Sure.
Right? I would also say that, you know, I also see success for myself personally on just information and knowledge, right? What do I know today versus what I knew yesterday, right? And, you know, we talked about how we help each other in the SA team. I try to make it a point of emphasis. Like, if I had to ask you this question on Tuesday and the same thing comes up on Thursday, I don't want to have to ask you again, right? So that I pay attention, that I write down, that I learn it. And those, to me, those little wins drive me to learn the next thing, right? So outside of the wins and losses, I think I measure success on growth, personal growth, right? Because sometimes the losses will come, and this could be sports, this could be business or anything. You may have a few losses. What did you learn from it? What did you grow? You know, if I lose an opportunity or a deal, I will take notes on it, why I think we lost that. Did I have a bad demo? Did I have a bad call? If it wasn't me, it was an outside thing. It came down to cost or came down to preference, right? But still want to take those notes, because I think we learn more from our mistakes and losses than we do from our wins. So as long as I'm growing, I think I'm always heading in the right direction.
So I started my, I was the very first MSP logically bought.
Okay.
In 2019. So I started my MSP back in the 90s, and I was working way too hard, Sam. I was working 14, 16-hour days.
It's a lot.
It's just horrible, putting my health in the back seat. I'm at the doctor's office. I'm at 340 pounds. Didn't realize it. She says to me, if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. So, I'm driving home, punching the driver's seat. I got myself here. I'm going to get myself out.
Yeah.
Spent the next 6-7 months, lost 130 pounds.
That's amazing.
And you can't look at it as a finishing line. Many people do it. You just change the way you do everything. So you kind of alluded to it before, but people ask me, look, what's your secret? There's no secret. Discipline. That's how I got focus. I got routine. I got restraint, habits. Exactly. How does discipline play a role in your life, Sam?
Well, I will say this, on a health thing, I need to get more discipline on working. I find, with that, I think it is forming those habits and pieces. I think it's always, if I'm, would say be a little vulnerable, one of probably my biggest things is sometimes I get too focused on a certain opportunity, and it's those discipline and those habits that kind of pull me back to make sure, like, oh, I still need to do these tasks or do these things. And that's something that I've always, I think, struggled with. So if the biggest thing for me is to really map out my calendar. And it really helps me, because I will get down in a rabbit hole, let's say, and it's like, hey, I got an hour to do this. I'm gonna get it done in this time, and I will. Or hey, after this, I need to make sure I'm working on these tasks and these items. So my calendar really kind of drives me quite a bit, and I try to put, even if it's not blocking off time, little notes, pieces, things, task lists, right? Start the morning off with goals that I hope to accomplish that day, because I can get almost like hyper focused on a few items if I don't do those things. And so for me, that discipline is really kind of mapping out, what are the goals for the day? What are the things I want to do? And that you could even go to the success piece, right? Hey, these are the 6 things I got to get done today on this Tuesday, right? Well, hey, maybe I got only to 5 of the 6 because something came up. I got to 5 of the 6. I'll take that as a win, right? Versus I have these 6 things I got to get done today. I got half of one done. Like that to me is not a successful day, right? So that's probably the biggest piece of discipline, is mapping out the days, the tasks. Got to leave room for, especially in IT, as you know.
Right.
There's a poster or a sticker I saw that has always stuck with me. Being a network engineer is easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike's on fire, you're on fire, everything's on fire, right? And it kind of is true. It's not that it's like rocket science, but there's always something on fire, right? And so you have to leave some room. But I do try to map out. I think the discipline for me is mapping out those tasks and items to set those little goals for the wins.
Your approach to general things in life and in business, is it more science than art?
Yeah, probably.
I get that sense.
Yeah, I'm more of a, I don't know which side of the brain it is. That's math.
I don't either.
But that's which is why I think my wife and I do so well, because she's a writer and she's this creative type, right?
Sure.
But
you're like one answer for things, not.
If possible.
Yeah.
I feel like there's normally a right answer, but that I know that gray. I do like to live in gray.
Yes.
Gray exists, and I think it's comfortable.
Especially in sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gray, but there's still winners and losers, but still, yeah.
I think and I've tried to make sure I don't do this. I do find myself, especially the more I've done, the longer I've been in like an injury site. Because before IT, I was a fundraiser.
Wow.
Did that for a long time. Did it at Ohio State, did it at Ohio Wesleyan University, and did that at COSI, the Center of Science and Industry here in Columbus, Ohio. Awesome, beautiful museum, science center. Strongly recommend anybody visiting this area to check it out. It's huge. It's like 3 football fields long and 3 stories. And so I do find sometimes I get a little too analytical when I analyze things. My wife's normally good at pulling me back and be like, remember, gray exists.
Sure,
and it's like, yeah, it does, because that's where I used to live.
Yeah.
It was so much about, customer interaction, which it still is. But yeah, I do think I lean more into the ones and zeros if I can.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no wrong way, right? There's no wrong way. It's just how you do it, Yeah, no, I play a lot of golf, and people ask me like, "What do you hit at this distance?" And I said, "Well, it's the weather."
Are you saying I hit it well?
Yeah, what my intention is, or how protect. So there's kind of science to arrive, and then I get there, and I say, "But what's my gut telling me?"
Yeah. What are you hitting well?
Yeah, that day, how did I get there? Did I just get a triple bogey the hole before?
Yeah.
There's so many of these kind of factors. Great talking to you today. Anybody listening, if they want to get in touch with you, probably LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yeah. I'm on LinkedIn. Great place to start.
Very good, Sam. Thanks so much. Great
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with 1 or 2 of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.